Welcome to part 5 of the staging yard project. Starting off part 5, and I have a bulkhead in place for the lift out section. I have my hardwood block in place for mounting my track. Now I have a reinforcement here for the bulkhead. Once that sets up, that should be pretty sturdy. And you can see I have a spacer here made from a piece of MDF or masonite. This is 1/8 inch, so I have an 1/8 inch gap between my bulkhead and the pier. And you can see on the staging side, I have the bulkhead in place, I have the hardwood block glued in place, and I have a brace for the bulkhead here. And this stuff's all glued in with tight bond. Once this sets up for a few hours, I'll take my 1/8 inch spacers out. I want to start working towards being able to put down some track. So I'm going to focus on the roadbed on each side of the bridge. There's going to have to be a little bit of shimming to get this track right. So I'm going to have to use some styrene to shim the track in a few places. I have 2 pieces of foam, one here, one over here. And I have some cork roadbed on the foam. Once this glue dries, the cork's going to have to be sanded down. It's too tall right now. I started adding in some foam. I got some foam right here to support this piece for the roadbed. And I'll add these pieces later once I get this finalized and get the height set. Got this piece glued in place. Now this is going to be carved, so this isn't the finished product. This transition right here is critical. As I transition from the lift out section to the main layout, this has to be absolutely in alignment right here, where the rail is going to be cut right at this gap. Now I have these plates that the rail will solder to, and these plates will mount on top of these styrene pads here. Once I have everything in alignment, I'll drill holes down through, and I'll use either screws or nails and drive the nails or screws down into this hardwood that'll permanently secure it. Now I cut these plates for the rails out of this piece of PCB board, and this is single-sided, which is good, so it only conducts electricity on the copper side. You can get these off Amazon super cheap. I think I got a whole package of 10 for $7, which is more than I'll use in this lifetime. But I have these cut, and these will lay down on top of here. I'll remove the ties from the track in this area and then solder the rails to these copper pads. I'd really like to get the bridge and the track in place, but I can't do it until I get some of the scenery done in here. Before I put the bridge in place, the abutments have to be painted, because once I set the track, the bridge is there to stay. So I have to get some of the scenery done in here. You know, the roadbed, the abutments have to be painted, and I have to get the scenery done along here to a point where I don't have to remove the bridge or the track. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to build up the scenery around the abutments and around the roadbed here and get that filled out. I have the foam blocks glued on the lift out section. Now once this glue sets up, I'll start carving. I'm going to try to blend the scenery on the lift out section into the permanent benchwork. And the same goes for over here. Now there's still a lot of carving yet to do, but you can see where these are approximately on the same level. I haven't used much Sculpt-a-Mold. in building my model railroad. I used quite a bit of it when I was building military dioramas, but I think this is a pretty good use case for it. I'm going to fill in some of these gaps, do a little bit of shaping. I have my own mixing bowl here. Put a little bit in there, mix it with water. Now, Sculpt-a-Mold's like a paper mache with plaster of Paris in it. If you're not familiar with Sculpt-a-Mold, this is what it looks like. And I'll get some water in there and it'll turn into oatmeal. I have the Sculpt-a-Mold mixed. Now, I mixed it pretty dry. I'm going to use it to fill in some of these gaps. I also do some shaping with it. Once I have this applied, probably put a bunch of water in this bowl and then smooth it out. I don't want to get the mixture too wet because I don't want the water running down onto my plywood. So I get my fingers wet. I can smooth this out. I want to do this before it starts to set up. Although it has a fairly good working time. I probably have at least a half an hour. I'll try to get it out of my stones where I don't want it. I have the Sculpt-a-Mold applied to the lift-out section. Now my main concern is the humidity in the Sculpt-a-Mold affecting my plywood. Now hopefully this foam barrier here will prevent that from happening. On a positive side, once this dries, it's going to be hard as a rock, and so it'll reinforce this plywood. I have the Sculpt-a-Mold tucked in pretty tight around the abutments. So once this dries, I could probably go ahead and do some painting. It's been about 12 hours since I put this Sculpt-a-Mold in place, and it's not even close to being dry. This might take 3 days to dry. So I think what I'll do is, I have some junk newspaper here. I think I'll wad some up and stuff down in this crack. And then I think I'll put a little Sculpt-a-Mold in here and try to blend these together. I have some Sculpt-a-Mold. It's bridging the gap between the old layout and the new addition. I have that done up to this point right here. And then I'll continue with the Sculpt-a-Mold. But about a foot, maybe 18 inches up, I'm going to have to start putting in retaining walls. I have the mold made up for my retaining wall. This is a silicone rubber sheet, so the plaster won't stick to this. And I just used weather stripping to create the mold. These two panels here will be the retaining wall, and then here will be the columns. And then I'll just cut everything to length once it's laid up. It's been a while since I mixed up some Hydrocal. Using this rubber bowl, a rubber spatula, and some water. Get this mixed up, pour it in my mold. I have my Hydrocal set to about the consistency that I want. It's not too wet, but it should still flow out okay. Hopefully I have enough. All right, I have my mold filled. I'm going to try to get the air bubbles up the top. Hopefully I got my air bubbles up. I don't want my finished surface pocked with air bubbles. Now this is the back side of the casting, so the other side facing down will be the finished side of the casting. My Hydrocal is set up for about an hour and a half. Well, it's pretty cool today. It's in the low 70s, so it may take a little bit longer to cure than normal. I poured my retaining wall castings about 6 hours ago. Now they're still pretty green, so I don't want to handle them too much. But you can see how nice and smooth that surface is. The surface turned out really nice. There's no air bubbles. But they are still damp, and so I don't want to handle them too much because I don't want to break them. And here, for the columns, once this cures, I'll sand the edges, kind of square it up, and then I can cut these to length as I need to. Given I have all this Sculpt-a-Mold that's still drying, and my retaining walls are still green, I think this is a good place to end part 5. So we'll pick it up again once my retaining wall castings have cured and my Sculpt-a-Mold has dried. So I thank you for watching. I hope you come back for part 6 of the staging yard project. But I think we're going to end part 5 here. So thanks for watching, and I hope you come back, check out part 6.